One.
And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It's a live broadcast. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, 2012. I'm Doug Hagmann. Co-host with me is my son, my co-host Joe Hagmann. Of course, together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We're going to be with you for the next 3 hours talking about some very important news, information that you need to know. Very perilous times, exciting times actually. I'll tell you what, news is not something that we need to dig for. It's just something that we need to discern what is important. Joe, welcome to tonight's broadcast.
Glad to be here, and I'm not in studio tonight, so we are not on video, but had some personal issues, had some doctor's things with the wife, so couldn't make it there tonight. But an interesting day indeed, in between running around to the
Who's
doctors.
Sitting over there? I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Then you're having some problems. No, in between, running to the doctors and the pharmacy, I was watching and listening to I got a chance to watch after the White Smoke came out. The new Pope come out, and made my wife late for the doctors because I waited for the Pope to come out to see who they announced. But no, and then right from the house into the car, you turn the radio on, and on every station, this is what was being talked about, and we have ourselves a new Pope.
That's right, folks. I would like to urge everyone, whether you're a new listener or whether you've heard this program before, on our front page are direct links to two broadcasts with Tom Horn. One is from January, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam and Steve Quayle. One is from the first part of January, and then of course on February 13th, or February 14th. I'm sorry. Two very important 6 hours worth of information about the Vatican, about the Pope, about the prophecies of the popes, the St. Malachi prophecies.
Yeah, and I think tonight would be fitting if we do take a look at a few of those prophecies, just the Malachi prophecy, and what Nostradamus also said something, and I just want to review what they said versus what we saw today. And if there is any correlation, if we can match it up at all to what they were saying. Well, and I know a lot of it is time fulfilling, meaning you need time before you can find out if some of these things are fulfilled. But based on certain individual characteristics and names and different things, we can look and see what similarities we can draw, if any, between the prophecies and the election of this guy today.
Yeah, and I certainly want to clear up some issues, because I must have gotten 100 emails today of there are some extremely vicious emails that I've received about this, and let us in unity, Joe, you and I apologize for my stammering and stuttering. I'm trying to work off a. And folks, if you ever get these migraines, I get them probably once a month, and that time period right before it gets bad. Okay, so I'm trying to work that off. So I apologize if I sound a little bit off, but anyway, I've received a lot of emails about this, and I've got to tell you, we have. If you look at this critically, if you look at and evaluate this properly, and if you have read, for example, Petrus Romanus, and if you're familiar with the St. Malachi prophecies, or if you, and by the way, if you have dared to even look at, for example, some of the Nostradamus prophecies. Now, as soon as I say that, of course, people say, well, that's just, hogwash. Well, I understand that. I understand that these are not prophetic, necessarily God-given utterances. However, it's one thing to be in the know, and to be in a position to be in the know, and revealing information in some sort of code that will save your life or protect your life or assure that you're not going to get snuffed. It's not a godly message or a supernatural message. It's a message of someone that is in a position to know. So these are all things that we're going to go over tonight. But Joe, I got some information right before the beginning of the program that I'd like to share, and also this is kind of like confirmation. Well, it's even more than confirmation. I had gotten this information from essentially two different sources, but the gentleman I fully respect, and I just I would trust my life with, had given me some startling information and some useful information about the collapse or about a precipitous event. That if you hear about this, when you start hearing about this, you know that the time is short in terms of the economy and the push toward a global currency. And Joe, with your permission, I'll just tell you exactly, or I'll just get right into that right now.
Sure.
Can we do that? All right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. And this is, I mean, it's not going to take more than 5 minutes just to explain this. And if you look, if folks, if you know history, and if you look at history, you can kind of tie things together. But here's the deal. Based on information. Now, if you look at our economy, the state of our economy, the global economy, and then our domestic economy here in the United States, with the understanding that the United States is the backbone of the global currency at this point. And if you also understand that there is a global, or I should say a push for a digital currency, which, as we know, is part of the plan by the globalists, by the one world order people, to use or implement a digital currency that will in fact require all participants to use this digital currency. You will understand why this is so important. And here's the nugget of information. Here's the one thing. And this is not going to be an isolated incident. This is also going to occur along with other incidents as well. In fact, the gentleman that I spoke with earlier, or right before the show, and I think Joe was a little bit worried that I was going to be late for the opening of the show. But if you understand, I suppose one of the best ways of putting this is 2013 is going to be the year of 1,000 paper cuts. But here's the situation with our currency. The moment you hear the rumblings of contaminated money, in other words, folks, you know that essentially all of our paper currency, especially the $100 bills and the larger bills, are contaminated with cocaine, even trace amounts of cocaine. If you have them in your pocket, it's just pretty much a foregone conclusion that unless that just, you got it right directly from the mint or from the printer, it's going to be contaminated with some trace amount of cocaine or some. Well, the moment that you hear that the actual money, the actual currency, the folding dollar, or 10 or 5 or 100 or 50 in your pocket might be contaminated with some sort of virus, biological, viral agent. And for your own safety, you would have to turn this money over for credit, for digital credit. Then you'll know that the fuse has not only been lit and it is burned down, but things are happening at that point. Things will be happening at that's the beginning of the real mechanics of going to a digital money or digital global currency. And this, according to the information I just received, will likely originate out of a foreign country, perhaps North Korea, perhaps Japan, but somewhere in Southeast Asia, perhaps, where people will be afraid to possess, to hold money. It's going to be, people will want to turn their money in and get digital credit, and they'll be convinced that holding and possessing currency, American dollars, American paper money, could be hazardous and fatal to their health. This is new. I mean, new within the last 12 hours in terms of information. This is part of the plan. Joe, you and I haven't talked about this. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I would say, is it part of their plan? Has it always been part of their plan? Yeah, the digital one world currency, what you started with talking about, yeah, that is something that they need. They can attain global control of all people with a digital paperless currency. When they can control how many zeros, are behind that 1 or 2 in your bank, if they can control if it's $1 or $1,000, and you have no control over that, you can't. There's no paper money for you to take and hide out of the way. So you have undeclared income or even undeclared money that they don't know about. If it gets to that point, yes, I mean that is their ultimate goal, because that equals total control and power.
Exactly, and that is their goal: total control, total power, total ability, complete ability to track every transaction that you make. You cannot make a transaction without them knowing about it. And the evil, nefarious, the evil aspect of this, and if you think about it, the uncertainty of whether you have this contaminated currency, it will compel you to turn it in, to get rid of it. I mean, can you imagine perhaps being told or listening to the evening news or on the radio saying, hey, we don't know how much, how far, how deep this contamination goes. People will be willing. In fact, think about it this way. Let's say you've had your money stored in your safe for the last 50 years, or no, I shouldn't say 50 years, 5 years anyway. And it's well, I mean, to the best of your knowledge, it's not contaminated, or it's not part of the recently contaminated money. Try to take that money and buy something, whether it be food, even if it's somebody that's willing to barter, for example, or no, I shouldn't say barter, but is even a little bit. No, even if you've got somebody that knows what's going on, kind of knows the plan, but try to convince them that your money, your cash, the cash that you want to pay for outside of the system, is safe. No, it has no virus. It's not contaminated. You're not going to be able to do that. They're not, even knowing that, knowing what the plan is, would you risk that, the health of you, your family, some contagion, for example? Of course not. How evil is that?
No, you're right.
That's evil.
Very evil. And I want to address something, switching gears, we can come back to what you're talking about, but about the Malachi prophecies in the election of the Pope today. Now,
All right.
And this is coming because the chat room is throwing out some good questions and some good comments. Regardless of the name of the Pope, even if it was the Peter, what was it, Turkston, who was elected today, I don't think that.
No. You mean the Pope? No, the Pope who was.
No, I'm just saying, even if it was Peter Turkston.
Oh, even if it was, okay, yes,
right. I don't think we're not gonna know if the Saint Malachi prophecy is accurate on the last Pope today, even if the guy's name was Peter the Roman. Really, I mean, unless it was Peter the Roman, if that was his real name. I don't. These things take time to be fulfilled. I don't think it's something that just because the name doesn't match with. I mean, look at the past prophecies of Malachi and the past popes he predicted. Some of them, the names he gave were very accurate with different characteristics of the Pope or things surrounding the Pope during his time in as Pope. Now, today we saw a man selected that, at face value, is the furthest thing from Peter the Roman. What you would think you would see, or who you would think you would see being selected as Pope.
Well, I've got some comments on that. When you're done, I'll
right. But I just wanted to say that regardless of who the Pope that was selected today was, either way, we would not know. I mean, and nor should we put any hope or faith into a, is this prophecy right? This guy that's selected today, his name's not Peter. This prophecy's all wrong. Or the guy's name is, the Peter Turkson was selected. Oh, the prophecy must be right. That should not be the way we handle these things. And I just wanted to say that because it seemed like there's some confusion and some good questions that I didn't address, but we'll get to later when we start getting into this.
Well, yeah, I got an email from someone in 72-point font. The text was, and is saying, essentially that it was, seriously,
was it in bold?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
All right, and I mean, it's saying how wrong Tom Horn and Chris Putnam are. Well, let's look at this for a moment, because Petrus Romanus is here. This, based on everything, I went through Petrus Romanus, the book, the DVD of supporting documents, the 6 hours of audio today, and also some dialogue with both Mr. Putnam and Mr. Horn, who, by the way, are two very busy people today. I'll tell you this. Tom Horn and Chris Putnam have said that the only thing needed to fulfill the prophecy of the popes would be a cardinal of Italian descent. Now, the new pope today, Pope Jorge Mario Bergoglio, is the son of Italian parents, suggesting a Roman lineage, or for sure an Italian/Roman lineage. The fact that he did not adopt the name Peter, obviously, it's Petrus Romanus, you have to understand, is more of a title and a descriptive thing as opposed to a name. The second thing, even more important than that, is this man is the first Jesuit pope ever, well, or for at least the very long time, at least for the last several centuries anyway. Now, this is a very important part of this prophecy, this information, because Petrus Romanus from the prophecy implies that the Pope will reaffirm the authority of the Roman pontiff over the church and will emphasize the supremacy of the Roman Catholic faith and the Roman Catholic Church above all other religions and denominations, and its authority over all Christians and all peoples of the world. This is from pages 437 and 438 of Petrus Romanus. Now, folks, those who are Catholics out there, this is not in any way, shape, or form an indictment of Roman Catholicism. This is not to, do not, and we will not tolerate on this program from callers or anything, any type of bashing of Roman Catholicism at all. This is not about the doctor, or this is not about Roman Catholics.
You're ruining all the fun, you know.
Well, sorry.
I'm kidding.
You know, this is about a plan that was set in motion generations ago that is folding into this one world, single world government that includes a single religion. So just to be clear on that. Now, concerning the Jesuits, people have to understand that the order was organized to stop the Protestants from spreading and to preserve communion with Rome and the successor of Peter. Now, you can look at Wikipedia, for example, and you can do a lot of things to both confirm and even question this. But as a Jesuit, this new pope also makes the perfect pope, by the way, to fulfill what is coming out in Exo Vaticana, the Jesuits' predictions, who have been secretly arguing in favor of a coming, and folks, buckle your seatbelts when I say this, a coming alien savior. Now, again, please understand that the Jesuits hold the power and supervision over the astronomy, the place in there, you know, the telescopes.
Yeah, the Lucifer telescope. Now, this is one thing I want to say. We did do a little. We talked about Jesuits months ago, and I don't remember why we did. We came across some information, but this is a group that I don't have a lot of background information on. I've read some pros and cons. Some people say the oath is not real, and the oath is very violent, by the way.
I have a copy of that, yes.
It talks about, murdering women and children if necessary, and it seems to talk about doing so for the sake of the Pope, for the sake of the Church. Not for the sake of the Lord, but we don't even, like I said, I'm not, the authenticity of the oath, the research, still a lot of research on my end needs to be done into this group. But one thing that I found interesting is, if it is true, it does fit in. It is like a secret society within the Vatican, but it's not a secret society that they're open. It's like Freemasonry in a way. You have the open, charitable part of Freemasonry, then you have a back secret, society, higher type, order type. But the infiltration part, in the oath, it talks about being on both sides of every conflict, things that we've talked about on the show over and over. But either way, this Pope is the first Pope from the Western world, from the Americas, Latin America.
South of the equator. And this is an important fact. Again, the individual I spoke with, the source, had made a point of this. Have you noticed, ladies and gentlemen, that, for example, the Bush dynasty is the George Herbert Walker Bush and George W. Bush and the Bush family? They're all making their homes south of the equator. Who else is fleeing south of the equator? Just keep that in the back of your mind as the program unfolds, because we're going to have some more information about that.
1,200 years. It's the first time in 1,200 years the Pope has been a non-European Pope. He is the first Jesuit Pope, 76 years old. He chose the name Francis. Now, is this the first Francis we've had?
Yes.
Francis the First?
That's correct. Which there's a lot to be said about that, but more or less to keep on point. Now,
and they keep saying today he was a man of the people. I was listening to coverage and watching the coverage. They were talking about he is a man of the people. He will, he would ride the bus, instead of taking the fancy transportation, and he was just a common man. He was a simple man. That's what I kept hearing today from no matter which, whether it was TV or radio or which news channel. That was something that was reiterated constantly. A man of the people.
I think if we look at his coat of arms, and they all have the specific coat of arms, and his philosophy, this is a pope or a man who has embraced, for example, the socialist reform, or reform on I guess the best way to describe it concisely would be to say that this is a man who understands socialism and adheres to the basic tenets of the common good or socialism as it is a common good, one would argue. Now, meaning that this man, this pope, would be more inclined to submit to a socialist kind of environment, take the Roman Catholic Church, or at least the Vatican, in that direction. And I was also told, and this is interesting because I was doing research on this as well, that essentially the Vatican, the highest levels of the Vatican, well, they're being blackmailed. It's a capture, just much like America is. The Vatican is a captured operation. And I think people really need to understand that. For example, if you have a group of people, let's say you're in an organization, you're in a business, and your coworkers are the greatest people in the world. I mean, they're truly, legitimately great people, godly people. Yet at the very top of your organization, wherever you work, perhaps, they are compromised. They are not like your coworker. There's an element of evil there. That's where the evil lies, and that's where the capturing part of the operation lies. It doesn't mean that everyone within the organization is evil. You're part of it, we'll say, and so is your coworker, a godly person. I'm just using this as an example. But a big part of this, too, is following the money. As investigators, we follow the money. It's the Vatican Bank. But I just want to really drive home so people understand. We're not talking, this is not an indictment of every cardinal, of every bishop, of every priest, every person associated with the Roman Catholic Church. No, this is at the head of an organization that's run by man, so right away it's not perfect. So it's in that spirit that we can talk about this, have an intellectual discussion about this, without dragging or without bringing doctrine in, without bringing other people in. It's part of a larger plan, and it fits very well. It fits very well with this New World Order type of operation. And let me just end it and go one step further on this. Did you notice, folks, that today is 3/13/13, and the Pope made his presence at 8:13 local time. Phenomenally occult numerology. And by the way, it doesn't matter, like we always say, it doesn't matter whether you believe in phenomenally occult numerology. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I believe it. If they believe it, that's what's important. It's kind of like looking at a motive of a murder. Think about that. Think about being a detective and the perpetrator murders someone because he or she believes something that has no basis in fact or reality. Do you believe it? Of course not. But you need to know to understand what the motive is. This is exactly what we're talking about. But the Vatican time, specifically on this date, the 13th, by the way, Pan's stars, or
Pan stars.
Yeah, Pan stars.
The comet Pan stars, which you might be able to see right now if you have a clear sky and you're on the East Coast, as it is only visible for the next few days at dusk.
Which is also known.
Sunsets.
And I did not know this. Pandemonium, which means all the demons, appeared close to the moon, even silhouetting it, according to various websites, including but not limited to space.com and other astronomers. So, you know, sometimes coincidences are coincidences, but sometimes things are planned.
Yeah, Michael in the chat, I want to thank you for this. He writes, he was writing about the significance of the number 13, and you were talking to me earlier about, we were talking about this earlier, but he said the smoke began at 7:06, 7 plus 6 is 13, announced at 8:14, 8 plus 1 plus 4 is 13, and he came out at 8:23, 8 plus 2 plus 3 is 13, and his age, 76, is 7 plus 6 is 13. On today, the 3rd, March 13th, 2013, which if you add all those up together, 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3 is 13.
Exactly. And once again, people might say
that's a lot of coincidences.
Well, yeah, you roll your eyes and think, well, wait a minute, come on, are you guys really serious? And I would be of that very same opinion, once again, 5 years ago. But if you look at this, not only what are the odds, but is this planned? And based on everything I've researched, it's very much planned to consecrate, if you will, this event.
Somebody yesterday in the chat room said that the new pope would be chosen today on the 13th, and I don't remember who that was, or said that it was probable that they'd be chosen today on the 13th. And I remember them saying that. I don't remember who it was, but I thought that was interesting. As one of the first things I thought about today was whoever said that in the chat room yesterday. Was the reasoning behind that. So, if you guys remember saying that, whoever you are, what was the reasoning behind that, or was it just a good guess? Let us know.
Yeah, indeed. But all of this to say that the time is running short, and I think that what we are witnessing, and when I said exciting times, I truly believe that these are exciting times. If you are a believer in the Bible and Jesus, and the if you are a believer in God, that God is in control. Satan, his minions, his people on earth feel like they're in control. They have their master plan. But you and I, folks, everyone listening to this broadcast, we know how it ends. But there is so much more to this. Once you begin to investigate and not disregard things that you feel are irrelevant or are a stretch, then there will be certain things that will be a stretch or, irrelevant. But if you take the relevant points and you start putting them all together, you will see, in my view, and I think, Joe, you and I have talked about this, I think what we're seeing right now is the culmination, and I use that word meaning culmination, of a plan that was set in motion a long time ago. And these people in charge use dates, they use numbers, they use this occult numerology for a purpose, for a number of reasons. So this is so important.
Yeah, and I just want to say this real quick. Other stories we're going to be hitting on tonight. We got a great audio of Ed Schultz. I don't know if you heard this, Dad, but LA Times announces white men are terrorists, and that's an article. From that article stems a audio of Ed Schultz talking about, it's 6 minutes long, about anti-government hate groups are on the rise thanks to the NRA. Also, an exclusive, this is from Reuters, U.S. to let spy agencies scour Americans' financial records. Also, we have more information on the new Pope. We have the executive order on export control reform that we didn't really get into, that we're going to try to get into today. Also, there was a New Jersey woman arrested for reciting the Constitution at a tax meeting, and a few other stories. There's people in Florida. There have been a series of UFO sightings on Monday that have been puzzling people in Ocala, Florida. But the Air Force and the Navy has said they were not running drills. But I talked to somebody in Florida who said that they're in this certain area where they said that there is a local police drone that looks like what these people were describing. So I don't know, this could be it or not. And we're going to be taking your calls about the Pope, what you guys think, what your feelings were, and any extra information you have on that. And going back to what we were talking about, the Pope, the article up at HomelandSecurityUS.com, White Smoke, Black Robes, First Jesuit Pope. That is the top story up on our website. I'll post a link to that in the chat and let you guys read that. And so I just want to let you know, Dad, because I know we didn't get a chance to talk about different stories and if we had any audios going on to play. So that was an announcement for you also.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think, I think what we're, the three very big issues that we need to hit tonight. Once again, the movement towards a single one world religion, which is a component of the one world order, which is the agenda, objective of the satanic element behind this single global governance, in which is the papacy, the Vatican. I think that's one thing that we have to pay very close attention to. We cannot afford to be dismissive simply because at face it doesn't look like, well, geez, this doesn't fit or that doesn't fit or whatever. I think we have to be very astute, but do so with discernment. Conduct ourselves with discernment, not make wild, outlandish claims.
We really could make a case that, I could really make a case. It would be based on speculation and some, facts about the man and his family and stuff. But I can make the case that he is Peter the Roman. He is Roman, and why that would apply. And I can make the case why it doesn't apply. And that's why, I said the time is going to be the factor with really understanding if that prophecy is true.
And something, I think that's a very, very wise thing to say. Right now, we're having a discussion about this. This would be very much like a crime, or even I'll say a murder being committed, and it would be very irresponsible for the lead detectives to come out and say, "Well, here's what we think happened," when in fact all of the information is still being evaluated, all the clues, all of the various forensic evidence is being evaluated. So, we're not going to make definitive statements as to how this is going to go, but we will say that there is, at least in my opinion, and having talked to you earlier, right after the announcement, Joe, I think that, you're of the opinion as well that there's more to this than just the surface. Some people, I think, in fact, the individual that sent me that email in 72 point font, I think, if it wasn't Peter from Rome, it's a epic failure of some sorts. Well, that's right. Just looking at it like very, very without. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and also we have to, see what the Bible says. If it
Exactly.
makes reference to the end times, the end of the times, what the state of the church will be, and we have to build from a biblical foundation instead of a uh, extra biblical foundation with prophecies ranging from Nostradamus to Saint Malachi. We have to, and as you said, we can't jump the gun on this. If you're a detective, we have to go through this, examine
Right.
the evidence, and make sure we have it, correct.
Exactly, but I think that we can, like I said, we can have a discussion about this. We can pour in, have a discussion means that we can accept other people's comments about this and evaluate the various points that what we know now and what we're developing, because this is an ongoing research and investigative project that we have to look at. And I do know that Tom Horn and Chris Putnam had various possibilities, and I mean they studied this in their 500 plus page book Petrus Romanus from various angles, from all angles. I mean, you talk about a very extensive investigation, and I dare say that people who have already dismissed this out of hand have not done the investigation. It'd be like an outsider commenting on a murder. It's, as a matter of fact, just let me share this really quick, because since I'm comparing this to like a murder investigation, having a family member murdered some 30 years ago. It was interesting because right after it happened, we were out, my father and I, and we were out at a restaurant, and this is big news for a small town, or a relatively small town, a very respected member of the community being slaughtered. And the initial reports were out. In other words, the newspaper and television stories, the initial stories were out about basic facts, pretty much kind of like where we're at right now with the Pope. And the table directly next to us, they were talking, it was a husband and wife, they were talking about this murder, and flat out said, I think, based on everything I read, I think that the brother did it. Most likely the brother did it. Well, the brother happened to be my father, and my father was sitting across from me. And he heard that. And you see, I knew, and he knew he didn't do it. And ultimately, folks, the murder was solved, and took 5 years. And I'd like to think that we had some, we had something to do with the bringing the killer to justice in the terms of identifying him. But at that time, those people were talking, using information they knew only at that time. So to dismiss it or to make claims at this early point in time, I think it would be a very, very bad mistake. So yeah, just to buttress what you said and to reinforce what you said, Joe.
I don't know if you saw this. Somebody posted it in the chat room. I think it was Susie. Thank you. There's a quail alert. Tom Horn's response to the new pope. He fulfills the prophecy. Goes on to say he absolutely nailed the prophecy. Jorge Mario Bergoglio is Italian Roman and a Jesuit. Now, can you pronounce that last name for me?
You know what? I was looking at that earlier. How about Bergoglio? Bergoglio.
Okay.
Bergoglio. That's how I would pronounce it. Bergoglio.
Okay. He's a Jesuit. It goes on to say this is a very important aspect of our prediction in the book, because we said the name Petrus Romanus from the prophecy implies this pope will reaffirm the authority of the Roman pontiff over the Catholic Church, and will emphasize the supremacy of the Roman Catholic faith and the Roman Catholic Church above all other religions and denominations, and its authority over all Christians and peoples of the world. That's from page 437 and 438 of the book Petrus Romanus. then they go on to cite something from Wikipedia.
Right.
It says concerning the Jesuits, the order was organized to stop the Protestants from spreading, to preserve communion with Rome and the successor of Peter. And it goes on from there.
Yeah, and that's what we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
But see, it's once again, why are we even, if we are not Roman Catholic, or or if we're not, why are we even talking about this? Well, the reason we're talking about this, it's part of, it's one more puzzle piece. It's part of the larger picture, and that's why it's important. If we understand, do we need to concern ourselves or preoccupy ourselves with this? Just to the extent.
No, not necessarily, no.
Just to the extent, if you want understanding, because there will be a coming deception, as Tom Horn talked about and Chris Putnam talked about in the last show on February 14th that they did with us with Steve Quayle. This is laying the foundation for a greater deception. That's where this is important, because if you don't understand what's going on here today and what has gone on over the last several years, you might not fully understand the deception that's coming within, of which the upper echelon, the highest levels of the Vatican might be involved in, or are at this point are said to be preparing for.
Well, let's look at the Vatican from a historical point of view. Let's look at, let's go back to its foundings and what it, we know that the church had power. The Roman Church held massive amounts of power throughout the world in the early parts of the first 1,000 years through pretty much the beginning of America being discovered. They were one of the main world powers as a non-military, non-country threatening power. They were different. It was the global church authority, really, and they have done several things. And they would persecute Christians. This was back in the days when the Roman Empire was thriving. All the way up until now, where they have, like I said, really lost their place of power among. They're more in the background in today's political realm, but they did have a place in politics, a huge aspect in politics, and even so, behind the scenes in the latest century. Look at the agreements Hitler made with Rome and the Pope. All the U.S. leaders, make sure they go make trips to see the Pope. They do still have a big influence. But now what Tom Horn is saying through this is that they are trying to regain control of all the Christian denominations or the Christian church. And whether true or not, I don't know, but that's what he's saying, is to have the viewpoint of there's no such thing as a Protestant or we're all Catholics or we're not Christian, pretty much. And that's, I don't know if that's even accurate or not. Time will tell if that's what this man is setting out to do. But regardless, a new pope today. Because I see, people have been joining us. We've gained a bunch in the chat room. People have been joining us throughout the hour. We have a new pope today, and this man is somebody who came in second place, if you will, during the last selection of the pope. I didn't know if you heard that or not, but that's something I heard today. Okay. That he could have been pope last time. But Benedict took the spot. Pope Benedict, this is the first time in 600 years a actual sitting pope resigned and watched a new pope take his place.
Which, that in and of itself, as we talked about with Tom Horn and Chris Putnam, is an event that must be looked at in my view, from an investigative viewpoint, and I think, Joey, you'd agree with me on this, you have to look at all of these factors. An event that hasn't happened within the last 590-some years takes place at this very moment in time. Why is that? I think that this, once again, based on everything, the assessment of all the evidence, which, and by the way, evidence is not proof. Evidence is evidence. I mean, they're components of factual components, but all of this is being initiated, it appears, by control. So for the new people joining us, I'll just go very quickly here once again, just kind of recap what we said earlier. Today, based on a vote of 115 cardinals, the man named Cardinal Francisco, or I'm sorry, where am I at with this here? Sorry about that. I just sorry about that. No, I just, what I did, I dropped the I dropped my paper. Jorge Mario Bergoglio was named Pope Francis. Some say Francis the First. Some say just Francis. He was actually he actually took the stage or made his appearance, and I think this is important too. Made his appearance on March 13th, 2013, or 3/13/13 at 2013. That's military time, or 8/13. Once again, that's a phenomenally occult numerological number. And I think for that to be coincidental, as you pointed out, Joe, I think it would be a stretch to think that would just happen randomly.
His age right. Equals 13. We went over a number of things that were related to that number.
The Pan-STARRS comet, if you will, which pandemonium, meaning all the demons, appeared close to the moon, even silhouetting it. You've got that. You've got, once again, Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, if you listen to the 6 hours worth of broadcast, they were very clear that the only thing needed to fulfill the prophecy of the popes would be a cardinal of Italian descent. Well, as it turns out, he's a son of Italian parents. Yeah. Both Italian parents.
I mean, and one thing I know this is different, a little going in a different direction here. One thing I saw today or was reading, and it struck me that the same Malachi prophecy says after the Pope, after the next Pope, this last Pope, Jesus, or it says the judge, some translated to say the terrible judge, will come to judge his people. But that's not true biblically, because after the tribulation period, there is a 1,000-year millennium, the 1,000-year reign of Jesus. After that is the Battle of Armageddon. And then, so that's something I thought about. And so it could be the last Pope, yes. The reign of Jesus could be here for 1,000 years after this. We could very well still make everything line up. But just something I came across today that I wanted to throw in there.
Well, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam point this out. What if the real prophecy lies hidden? And they're referring to the St. Malachi prophecy of the popes. What if the real prophecy lies hidden beneath the surface of all the Latin phrases? There was a Jesuit priest, Rene Thibault, in his book, The Mysterious Prophecy of the Popes. He approached this entirely different. He unlocked this prophecy in an entirely different way, investigated it in an entirely different way that no one seems to have imagined possible. Once again, we're talking about Jesuit priest Rene Thibault. Now, his work is, and I must warn people, his work is deeply mystical and quite complex to really explain, like in a radio show environment. and his writings are out of print, of course. Any type of writings are very rare, and they're written in French, and it's a mess. But when Mr. Horn and Putnam had looked at this, they were just scratching the surface of what was presented by this Jesuit priest Rene Thibault. And what they were saying is that they were astounded that the 2012-2013 meme, which means, and this is important, 2012-2013, that's 5773 in the Hebrew calendar. A lot of people think that, well, Mr. Horn and Putnam were off when they said the Pope would be elected in 2013 or 2012, or this would all take place in 2012. No, they were talking about the 5773 year, which overlaps into 2013. So they were dead on accurate in terms of the timing. But anyway, back to Rene Thibault, the prophecy of the popes, and like I said, it's extremely complex, but this Rene Thibault had arrived at the very same date, the 5773, 2012-2013 period. This is back in 1951, taking the prophecies, analyzing the prophecies, and then laying them out. So instead of looking at this in the usual way, I guess what I'm saying is this Rene Thibault had successfully identified through different means. It would be like looking at, once again, the murder scene. Look at the murder scene from a different vantage point, from a different perspective, and arriving at the same conclusions. It's interesting that as Pope Benedict did step down, it was a near perfect 11 in terms of I'd have to, and I probably shouldn't have got into this, but the way this Rene Thibault had laid this out in the mysterious prophecies of the popes, he had indicated that that all of these events that had to do with the Vatican, had to do with the Pope, had to do with the fully capturing of the Catholic Church, or the Vatican, and the Vatican Bank in particular, would come to pass in the year 5773, or this very time in which we're talking about. So I would urge everyone who would like to research this further, definitely pick up a copy of Petrus Romanus, because it's in there, the Thibault's argument about the timing of all of this and how everything is coming together at this very moment in time. So I just wanted to mention that. So
we have Obama's trip to Israel coming up in about a week now, and we're coming up against the first break. What we're going to do is hit the break. We're going to come back. I'm going to hit this audio we have of Ed Schultz talking about the rise of anti-government patriot groups and constitutionalists being the new terrorists, and how the turmoil and rhetoric of this country's patriots are just at the level it was before the Oklahoma City bombing.
And this fits right in with everything we're talking about. It fits right in with the Pope, because this is all going to happen at the same time. I'm sorry, go on. I just want to make sure.
Other news
we're going to get people weren't. I just want to make sure people weren't thinking we're digressing from this, because we're looking at this now, not just one crime scene, but an entire global crime scene. Sorry.
And what we're going to do is, if it's all right with you, is after we come back and hit some news, we can start taking phone calls. I want to know what people have to say, regardless of the St. Malachi prophecies, regardless of anything else other than the election of a new pope, or you guys can incorporate that into your calls. What do you guys think about the selection of the new pope, who he is? What do you guys know about him, if anything more, that we haven't covered? I know a lot of people have posted things in the chat and sent me messages on little interesting facts about the man, and we'd like to hear from you tonight also. So we'll do that.
Yeah, if the only thing we ask is you stay on point, please, and be as brief and concise as you can, so we can get through as many people as possible to get the information out there. Because we're speaking now to a global audience, people in Rome, people in Italy. I'm looking at a number of connections from Italy, even at this early hour of the morning. So
yeah, we have people in New Zealand and Jamaica and all over the world, and it's really humbling to know that people would tune in from our country, let alone from around the world, to listen to us speak and to talk about news and current events and what's going on in the world and the Bible. And we are not only humbled, we are very blessed to have all of you listening tonight. So with that, we're going to go to break, and we'll be right back with some more news and your phone calls and more. So stay with us.
Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eileen Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile-friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the Internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the Internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
You want answers? I think I can tell you one. And I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of this Hagmann and Hagmann report on this Wednesday, March 13th, 2013. I want to thank Mel for that music, as he provided us with some music he composed himself. And that is what you just heard as the intro there. And we will be playing that off and on with Lori Roth's intro. But I like that a lot. I think he did a great job. And, thank you very much, Mel. We could use a few more, and that would be awesome. Anyway, we're going to go to hit some news items here before we go back to what we were talking about with the Pope and taking your calls, as today has been aside from the Pope, there's been a lot of news that's been going on today that people really aren't paying much attention to, us either, because we've been so paralyzed almost by the news of the Pope, just sitting there watching and waiting to see what the Pope was going to be, who was going to be, what he was going to say, his background information, what does this guy believe in, what are his policies, what did he do in his past as a cardinal, and from before that. And I think we've all been captivated by the news of this Pope, to the point where it's if you're like me, doing the dishes or running an errand, that's all you keep thinking about is, oh, there's a new Pope today. What does this mean for us? What does this mean for our future? But we're going to hit some news, then we're going to get back into your calls and talking about what you guys want to talk about. This out of Reuters today. U.S. to let spy agencies score through Americans' finances. The Obama administration is drawing up plans to give all U.S. spy agencies, all the agencies, full access to a massive database that contains financial data on American citizens and others who bank anywhere in the U.S., according to a Treasury Department document seen by Reuters. The proposed plan represents a major step by the U.S. intelligence agencies to spot and track down terrorist networks and crime syndicates by bringing together financial databases, criminal records, military intelligence. This going back to what you said earlier, Dad. The digital currency, the cashless society. What goals does that serve? Being able to track, monitor, spot, control every aspect of one's finances. The article goes on to say the plan, which legal experts say is permissible under U.S. law, is nonetheless likely to trigger increased criticism from privacy advocates. And I'm still sick and tired of reading articles that says, well, even though the United States law or code or executive order says this legal, privacy groups are going to be up in arms. Privacy activists are going to go crazy. Privacy activists are going to be teed off. It seems too much as ending of a sentence in articles now, much more than it should. We should, on the other hand, see the government being held accountable. What about the government's finances? Why can't they're going to have all and allow all U.S. spy agencies? When they say all U.S. spy agencies, they're not just talking about the NSA, the CIA, Northern Command. I mean, they're talking about the black spy agencies too. When I say black, I mean off the book spy agencies. If it wasn't already open to them. But what about the government's finances? When are we really going to get a look at the Federal Reserve's books? When can we audit their accounts? Well, they're not a government agency, so I guess they're not under the same umbrella.
They're answerable to no one.
Right.
And this is what it's all about. When we hear things like this, well, what is the end game objective here? The end game objective is once again to bring control over commerce. Everything you do, everyone listening to this broadcast, you're not citizens of the United States or whatever country you're listening this from where you're listening to this. You are subjects, and as subjects, the government will control every aspect of your financial existence. Look at what's happening here in the United States and all across the world. How we have been sold into financial slavery and bondage. Yet people don't understand this, and this does tie in. If it is all about control, and that's exactly what it is, not convenience. People say, well, an ATM card is so convenient and paper money is convenient. Well, obviously, paper money not backed by anything is it might be convenient, but it's worthless. But going to a system of dots and tittles on a computer screen is all about control, keeping track, surveillance over all, and again, controlling your transactions. Don't think for a moment you're going to be able to buy a side of beef or go to the grocery store without the knowledge and the ability, or without the oversight. Yes.
I just want to jump in, and since we're not in the same studio, I can't wave my arms and get your attention, so got to do it that way. But I'm getting notices in the chat room that the audio is bad and choppy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this clip of Ed Schultz. We're going to play this clip and try to fix whatever communications problems we seem to be having, and we will be right back. But this is Ed Schultz on anti-government protesting groups or anti-government hate groups being on the rise thanks to the NRA.
Good evening, Americans, and welcome to the Ed Show from New York. America is on the brink of something very dangerous. This is the Ed Show. Let's get to work.
I am not letting my country be ruled by a dictator. I'm not letting anybody take my guns. If it goes 1 inch further, I'm going to start killing people.
The biggest threat to the United States is within our borders. A shocking new report shows anti-government hate groups are thriving in America. A new Dick Cheney documentary reveals he has no regrets.
Creating the sensation of drowning. You don't consider it work. No.
Tonight, the new Showtime documentary with featured author Martin Gelman. Plus, there is evidence of Republican voter fraud in Florida. We'll bring you the details. President Obama dines with Republicans, and Karl Rove is back to predicting things. The congressional panel weighs in on the president's GOP outreach and more.
Give me one damn program he said he cut.
And Bill O'Reilly loses control over body and mind.
No, entitlement. What do you want to yell at? Because you're lying.
Tonight, we'll break down Bill O'Reilly's childish behavior with Bill O'Reilly's very own body language expert.
Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. There are some events that happen in your lifetime, some big news events, and you can remember exactly where you were when that news broke. This is the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City on April 19th, 1995. I'll never forget where I was. We were fishing on Lake Erie, and we came off the lake, and we were staying at this cabin, and I was the last one to go up to the cabin. And everybody was just fixated, because I could see through the windows, the big picture windows there. Everybody was just fixated on the television, and I thought to myself, something big has happened. When I got in there and I saw the news, I could not believe that this had happened on American soil, that someone had done this to fellow Americans. And that's why I'm fired up about these facts tonight. Thanks to a new report by the Southern Poverty Law Center, we know that anti-government patriot groups are now at an all-time high in this country. We need to pay attention to this, folks. The increase in threats on the President of the United States and other government targets is similar to the period of time before the Oklahoma City bombing. Researchers are out front asking the American government to create an interagency task force to deal with the problem before it's too late. So let's just break down a few numbers here. In 2008, there were only 149 known militia groups in this country. Last year, there were 1,360, more than 8 times as many. Houston, we got a problem. And as you can see from the Southern Poverty Law Center's chart, the last time we saw this number of armed nationalist groups was in the Clinton years. The Southern Poverty Law Center says it was a similar spike back in 1995, just as we are seeing today. Now, the president of the Southern Poverty Law Center has written a letter to the Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department recommending 2 departments combine resources to protect against an act of aggression against the American government. Now, these numbers jumped when President Obama became president. They have now jumped again as he has taken on the National Rifle Association. The NRA has done everything in its power to paint the President of the United States as some threat to gun owners everywhere.
All that first-term lip service to gun owners is just part of a massive Obama conspiracy to deceive voters and hide his true intentions to destroy the Second Amendment during his second term.
Conspiracy, conspiracy, conspiracy. Let's forget what the American people want. Oh, it's President Obama. It doesn't stop with the NRA. The rhetoric of the conservative media has turned dangerously alarming.
The Obama administration, through all this appeasement and apologizing, answers to the Quran first and to the Constitution second.
Barack Obama is destroying America based on lies.
You don't like Obamacare. You feel that it's unconstitutional, bad for the country, and on and on. Going to destroy us. Okay, going to destroy the country.
Going to destroy us. Getting 30 million more people health care is going to destroy us. Most of the militia groups named by the Southern Poverty Law Center claim that they are not hate groups and they are only exercising their constitutional rights. But all it takes is one person to create another Oklahoma City situation. Take James Cummings before Cummings was killed in a domestic violence altercation in 2008. He was preparing an attack on newly elected President Obama with what? A dirty bomb. The Center for Disease Control says Cummings is the first American to come close to assembling the elements of a fully radioactive dirty bomb. In a 2010 Time magazine cover, the story about extreme militias, Cummings' wife is quoted as saying his intentions were to construct a dirty bomb and take it to Washington to kill President Obama. He was planning to hide it in the undercarriage of our motorhome. She says her husband had practiced crossing checkpoints with dangerous materials aboard, taking her and her daughter along for an image of innocence. This is really a frightening reality of extremism in America. The latest report from the Southern Poverty Law Center shows just how dangerous it is and how we cannot let this go unchecked. We need to pay attention to this report. I know I am. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question.
And there you have it. Ed Schultz talking about the rise of anti-government rhetoric, anti-government groups, and how nasty and hateful they are in their speech, and how racist and how evil they are for wanting not to have our economy turned into a hyperinflation nation, for wanting to have normal job rates, for wanting to have live peacefully and be left alone.
Well, I think all of us can agree. In fact, the title of yesterday's program, Converging Flashpoints, I think all of us can agree that what we're witnessing with the Ed Schultzes of the world, and even the Bill O'Reillys of the world, and others who talk about all of this, and especially those who talk about the domestic terrorist groups, we're being set up from within. And I think if one looks at Oklahoma City, there's ample evidence out there for Oklahoma City, whereas before I was looking only at the Islamic component. Now, if you look at the investigation and do the investigation from a from a government position. In other words, Timothy McVeigh's relationship to, or were operation as an asset for the government? What was he doing, for example, in various locations prior to the Oklahoma bombing? So when Schultz refers to the bombing, for example, Oklahoma City, creating this environment that led up to that.
All right, I dropped off the call and came back on. People are saying they cannot hear us. If you want to do the same, hang up and then hit join call again. It might work. And I'll talk while you do that. And things are working fine on Cuban, on Homeland Security US, the number 1.tk, if you want to go over there for audio. Homeland Security US, the number 1.tk. That will give you also another audio stream where you can listen.
Does that sound any better? Does this sound any better now, folks? I'm not plugged into this.
And we're not having any sound problems on our end.
So I think it's the interface with our platform. But how does this sound? Does this sound all right?
I'm not sure. I hear you fine. I haven't heard any audio problems. No buttons or lights are going up and down. Weren't sending any alarm bells. It says it's better for Doug. Doug sounds better, but no good. Yes, better. I sound bad. All right, let me try this.
Well, yeah, you go ahead and do that. But you know,
still very choppy. Okay.
Who's choppy? Are we both choppy? I mean, what do we have to do? Do we have to do we what do we have to do here?
I don't know. I think this is a blog talk issue, but what I'll do is I'll call in with my phone if I have to.
All right. Well, if folks, if you can hear me, if the sound is adequate, and you can hear me. Then I just want to say this: all of this, what Schultz said, what other pundits are talking about, they are actually. This is once again part of a larger on a domestic front. This is part of a larger agenda, and they're targeting the very people who are focusing on the rule of law, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and never was this more plain, in my view, when Rand Paul took to the Senate floor and conducted that filibuster. Isn't it interesting that John McCain, Lindsey Graham, the man who said all of America is a battlefield, isn't it interesting that they went after Rand Paul with both barrels and said what a disservice he did? Yet Paul was the only. Now you sound like you're.
Phone.
Okay, now you sound like you're talking from a
phone, and I can hear the distortion.
Okay.
I hear the distortion big time. Now I'm calling in via cell phone. And it is terrible sound. It's just very troubled. So, okay, I think he's still there? All right.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to mute yourself. Mute yourself real quick, and or call in with the phone. We can do this by the phone. If Blog Talk's going to give us problems or Skype's going to give us problems, then we'll just go with old-fashioned, one of those old-fashioned dial-up phones where you got to, dial the 6, spin it all the way around. No. Okay. I don't know what the sound problem is, guys, but I could not hear it until I called in with the cell phone, which makes me wonder if it's even on our end. Usually we hear the distortion, and you guys don't. But we'll see what the archive produces, because a lot of times none of the distortion comes over the archive. But anyway, while my dad's getting reconnected, the demonization of patriot groups, of constitutionalists, of people who want to restore this country, and this is where a lot of people or on the left media will say they want to take us back to slavery when they say restore the Constitution. They want to bring back Joe Biden. They want to put you back in chains. No, that part of the founding of our country was definitely wrong. And it wasn't perfect. Other things weren't perfect either. But we can all agree, if we went back to a true free market principle-based system, if we went back to a true system of government where the people are the true leaders, then, we have somewhere we can start to build from that. Now, Dad, I brought you on via phone.
Yeah, I don't know, folks. Is this any better? Can people hear me any better? Is there distortion?
There's distortion. And I'm going to hang up on Skype, see if that gets rid of it. And I say you do the same. As long as Troy's still connected, we can still...
All right. This is just... how about now, folks? Is this any better? Do we have to go through this every day, every single program? And I know, folks, you are frustrated. I apologize. I apologize. And if you can hear the frustration in my voice.
Yes, Troy. You're garbled. I can't even hear you, Troy. So, no, okay, let's do something about this. Okay, you want to do this? You want to drop off as host? I'll call in as host and bring you guys back on? All right, we'll try that. And I can stay on the air on my cell phone while we do that, so we won't lose. Yeah, we won't lose any airtime.
exactly what we're going to do. The audio problems at this point are going to be finished. They're going to be over. And in the next 24 hours, we're going to do whatever we need to do to get this resolved. I don't care who we have to talk to, who we have to bring in. It's unfair to our listening audience. It's unfair to us. It is absolutely maddening, and it's going to stop.
Yeah, I would like to stop too, but some things are just out of your control. Some things are out of our control, and we have done everything in our power.
All right.
Times 10 to be able to not have these problems, but yeah, we still do. So,
all right.
The only thing we can do is pray about it and continue to work.
There's going to be some practical applications made on this as well.
Right.
All right. But with regard to Ed Schultz, as I was saying before, I don't know if people heard me. I don't even know what the last sentence or the last utterances I made. But here's the bottom line.
You have a caller.
Schultz and the demonization of the domestic group. Everyone understands that the die has been cast, that now we are the targets. Anyway, and this will move via the Vatican complicity at the highest levels will move toward the demonization of Christians. This is all working together, and as my source had said, this year is going to be death by 1,000 paper cuts. Now I'm hearing an echo.
That's Troy. Troy's got to hit mute.
Mute this out, all right? Thank you. All right. So this is all part of the larger. This is all part of the larger agenda. Joe, do I lose you, or are you okay?
No, I'm here. No, Troy said sorry. I reconnected him, and I think he has to go through a series of hitting buttons once reconnected.
All right. Well, this, like I said, this is not gonna continue. This cannot continue. It's not fair to the people who support us. It's not fair to the people who listen. It's not fair to us, and it does not do a whole lot for my blood pressure. But that said,
well, that's your fault.
Yeah, I understand that. But look, we are in the fight for our lives, our spiritual lives, and our lives, the lives of our families, ourselves, and our children. We have to understand the level of fight and how serious this is. And the Vatican is part of it. Ed Schultz is part of it as a purveyor of this demonization against the people. This was written out in, like I mentioned yesterday, this was planned out generations ago. Pawns in the Game by William Carr, None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, and of course, on the spiritual end, and by the way, Secrets of the Federal Reserve, Eustace Mullins, and on and on and on. W. Cleon Skousen, The Naked Capitalist, The Naked Communist, all of these books all talk about this. And just to put everything in perspective, what happened today, folks, I really believe that everyone needs to understand this, the satanic symbology of the occult symbology of the dates, the times, and this has been planned. This is not accidental. This has been planned, and they're becoming more and more transparent. I believe they're becoming more and more transparent.
Yes, yeah, they are, and they will continue to do so, and the veil will continue to be lifted in the spiritual realm, in the physical realm. Here, we will start to see things. As we continue to see new things happening all the time with these, when we say the veil being lifted, when we ask that question, are things coming, are we being able to see more than those paying attention? Are they able to see more than the average person? And I would say yes. And also, is time moving faster? Yes. At least in my world, and I know in the listeners' world that interact with us, they all agree. Time is flying by. Things are happening at a rapid pace, whether it be earth changes, earthquakes, whether it be events like the mass shootings, the way that they are labeling the Americans enemies and backing it with legislation to take your freedoms away. Everything is coming to a head. The way the economy is now stock market hitting its 9th day in a row of all-time historical highs. We are seeing every day something new, yet not new, letting us know that we're not in a good place. But it's all a lie. The seasons can be discerned. Now, it is all a lie. The illusion of freedom, the illusion of a real economy, the illusion of ourselves being free people in a free country and having the ability, and I would even go as far as to say it's a lie to think we can change that overall picture. It's not a lie. It is anything but a lie to be able to change yourself and your circle of influence. This is where it is, and we need to be, and the only place I think we can be the most effective. We can fix ourselves. We can change ourselves to be better people, to follow the Bible, to read more, to pray more, to be better. That affects the people around us, even if they hate it at first. Well, once they see that, you're happier as a person, that you've found something that to live for.
Well, okay, and that is indeed true. Now let's bring this back here to what's currently going on, and we have to use, of course, the Bible, the influence of the Bible as our own personal template here. But as we try to figure things out, as we try to understand what's going on, something that
I got knocked off air. My internet didn't go out. I got knocked off as host.
All right, folks.
They can't hear us.
Are we going to go through this again?
Look, I got knocked off as host. That doesn't happen without the internet going out.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please enter your host PIN. When finished, press the pound key.
Just relax, all right? How getting angry?
You copy.
The PIN you entered does not match the PIN you have on file for your account. Please re-enter your PIN.
Back.
Thank you for using Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Really?
Welcome to CUBN.
Not to indict the Roman Catholic followers or the followers of the
Roman Catholic Church. This is an indictment of the highest levels, the movers, the powers, the principalities behind the Vatican and the blackmailing. Don't forget the Rothschilds own the Vatican Bank. But the significance of Jerusalem, as Obama is preparing to go to Israel, Jerusalem is mentioned in the Bible. Of course, is a city of great interest. The book of Revelation closes with the New Jerusalem coming down from heaven, Revelation chapter 21. So it's undoubtedly holy ground, by the way. God was once present in Jerusalem in a special way, above and beyond his usual omnipresence. The Hebrew Bible records that God's presence manifested physically in Jerusalem as a radiant cloud, and you can find that in 1 Kings 8, verses 10 and 11. But during Ezekiel's ministry, when God became fed up with his people's sin, his glory departed Jerusalem, as explained in Ezekiel, I believe it's chapter 10. The Jews rebuilt the second temple in Jerusalem, but things didn't happen, of course, and you and I know this, and the people know this as they expected. The prophet Daniel not only predicted the second temple's destruction, but he told them that the Messiah would come prior. Of course, this would perhaps lead Jews to the inescapable conclusion that because only Jesus meets that requirement, the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, demands that Jesus was the Messiah. But that aside, okay, because I don't want to go there, we have to look at the significance of Jerusalem, and we have to consider the significance of Israel as well, this nation the size of Rhode Island. It's amazing that today, in a few days actually, it will be the primary focus of Obama and foreign policy experts across the world. And you've got to ask yourself, how can it be that such a small, tiny, really geographically insignificant parcel of land would have such a major impact on all of the world?
It does, yeah. And why?
Well,
is it because it's the most trendy place, thing happening on the world right now? No, it's because it is God's chosen land, and that's the way he said it would be.
Right, exactly. But I think, once again, the stepping down, and you have to kind of step back and look at the Pope Benedict XVI abdicating his throne, actually quitting, if you will, last year, but yet waiting until now to actually step down and then have the conclave meet, and the conclave appoint a new pope. Exactly why? What prompted Benedict XVI to wait until the end of February to abdicate? And then what prompted the conclave to meet on this past week and then elect a pope today? Was this planned? Is this part of a larger plan? Yeah, I believe it is. And when you look at this in the context through the prism of what's taking place geopolitically with respect to Obama and Israel, you've got to begin connecting the dots. And look, God made irrevocable promises to the Jewish people concerning the land of Israel. That, of course, is in Genesis 13, 14, verses 14 through 15. But we can bring the UN into this as well, because the United Nations, the power elites in the United Nations are involved in this. The worldwide sentiment carried enough influence over the power elites in the United Nations after the Holocaust
that a Jewish homeland in the Promised Land was supported. Now, that's an important part of history. But who was involved? Which country was involved in? It played a key role aside from the United States. Which country played a key role in the establishment of Israel, the Holy Land, and Jerusalem? It was Great Britain, and even the Soviet Union to a lesser extent. But you know what? The Vatican never supported the deal. Joe, are you with me?
I'm still here.
Okay, I didn't know if
I'm on mute. So
okay, I didn't know. I just heard this eerie silence, and I just was wondering. But you go back and you look at UN Resolution 181.
Hey, just out of curiosity, are you in the chat room?
No.
Okay. Well, somebody is.
Okay.
You are, or I am. Somebody is under our name, and I can't kick them off.
Well, that's nice.
But go ahead.
All right. So, anyway, at this point, we have to look at what's taking place with Israel, and we're going to have to watch very carefully what Obama is going to do in Israel, and especially with respect to Jerusalem. This is going to play a very significant role into the new Pope now, and I just want to bring people's attention to this. I'm not sure how many people know this. There was a newspaper article in Italy, in the Italian paper La Stampa. This was back in 1993, I believe, or 1994. The headline of La Stampa, the original article which ran in the Italian newspaper, reads, "Now Jerusalem, the secret plan to entrust it to the Pope." That original article says that the city of Jerusalem will be occupied, or there will be steps made by the Vatican to take over part of Jerusalem. The timing of the Vatican's long overdue recognition at the time of Israel was essentially motivated by ambition for the city of Israel, for the international city. They want a presence there. And I think that when Obama goes over to Israel here in days from now, I think we have to look back at what happened, not only from the UN back in the early days of Israel's re-existence or that, but we also have to look at what is taking place with the city of Jerusalem and how the Vatican intends to occupy that. Now, how does that fit in with the prophecy of the popes? Well, is there not part of this prophecy where the Pope and the Vatican itself, the body of the Vatican, flees from Rome, perhaps to Jerusalem? Petrus Romanus, of course. The plan, at least under the plan of Petrus Romanus, calls for Jerusalem to become the second Vatican of the world, with all three major religions represented, but under the authority of the Vatican. And guess which groups, by the way, are involved in the architecture of this? Well, one of which, perhaps the impetus of this, is the Council on Foreign Relations. They were also behind the deal.
No, they just get together to talk about how to better their 401ks and investments, right?
Of course.
I mean, there's nothing nefarious going on with a bunch of international bankers and heads of states meeting, right?
No, of course.
It's legal, too, as U.S. officials go. Doesn't violate the Logan Act.
No, of course not. But think back, folks, because all of the dots are lining up. Everything is connecting right now. The Oslo Accords, remember those? They were signed featuring
Bill Clinton in D.C. on September 13th, 1993. Look, at that time, the Vatican still never established diplomatic relations with Israel. That was back on September 13th, 1993. The newspaper San Antonio Express News on September 25th, 1993, ran a story that said Israel could gain an elusive long-desired side benefit from its recent agreement with the Palestinian Liberation Organizations. There were side agreements being made. The diplomatic recognition of Israel by the Holy See, something that was being sought by Israeli and Jewish leaders since the establishment of Israel in 1948, they were working toward this recognition. Well, the article that I mentioned in this San Antonio Express News, it actually kind of telegraphs the connection between the Oslo Accords, the clandestine promises, the covert promises, and the Vatican's change of heart to recognize Israel. Because in December of that year, a fundamental agreement between the Vatican and the State of Israel was reached. The Vatican finally recognized Israel after 45 years of stonewalling. So I'm just wondering how many people know that the Vatican didn't recognize the nation of Israel until 1993, officially. So the Vatican only recognized Israel because they thought they were going to gain sovereignty in the old city of Jerusalem. Now, some people will say, well, that's baloney, that's just conspiracy nonsense. Well, if you go back to the various newspapers, including, or the various news reports and the newspaper, including the San Antonio Express, it's right there. So how can you even say that that's conspiracy? And in fact, the Israel radio station that I've been on, Arutz Shiva, was leaked a cable from the Israeli embassy in Rome to Shimon Peres, the foreign ministry in Jerusalem, confirming the handover of Jerusalem to the Vatican, or at least the plans for that. The cable was printed on the front page of the newspaper Haaretz, the Israel newspaper Haaretz, and I'm mispronouncing that, a couple of days after, in March 1995. But there was a scandal that took place, and a lot of rabbis who were supposed to meet with Shimon Peres for Passover services back in March 1995, they canceled their invitations in protest of this particular event. So you see how all of these points are, you see how we got here. And I think it's important to understand how we got here. They are planning, in one sense, to hand part of the holy city of Jerusalem over to the Vatican perhaps under this particular pope, at least how that appears to be playing out. And there is, in addition to that, there is the blackmailing of the Vatican Bank, owned by the Rothschild family, involved in this. So today's events of the appointment of a new pope is much deeper, much greater, and much more serious than just the what everybody is or what's being reported. It's so important right now, as we've mentioned.
Yes, it is, and I'm sorry for leaving you hanging there. I was just I was interacting in the chat, but no, you're right on the money. The everything going on right now, aside from, just in our political and economic realm in America, it is crazy. And then you add in all the other countries, all the other unrest, all the other unemployment numbers out of the Eurozone and the unrest there, the people starving there, people are saying, I don't know what this is like. I've always had food. I've always had a home. I've never had to live like this before. That's a very small image or picture window into our future.
Exactly. You're right on the money.
And that's not including all the spiritual signs we're seeing around us with the earth changes, the earthquakes, the fish and animals dying, the comets in the skies, the comet that could smash into Mars, the comet that's going to be as bright as the moon in the fall here in the northern hemisphere, a pope resigning for the first time in 600 years, 1,200 years the first time a pope comes not from European descent. After this pope, after 600 years of a pope resigns. We have, the first Jesuit pope. And what are the implications of that? Something we will be definitely going through and unfolding as the days go on. We have sightings. UFO, as I said, puzzles Ocala residents in Florida, but the Navy and the Air Force both denied any involvement in running drills. Stories like this are on an everyday basis in many places, just in the USA, let alone the world. When the Pope resigned, the first resignation of a Pope in 600 years, lightning struck the Vatican.
Twice.
Yes, that night.
And have you noticed, Joe, because you are, and I love how much you read the Bible, and folks, have you noticed that Jesus, when he wanted to make a point, and Marianne had mentioned this to me, he would often repeat the same thing twice? So, wow, could this have been twice, the lightning striking the basilica twice? Could this have not been something from Jesus?
Yeah, no, very well could have been. And I want to answer just one quick thing in the chat room. Somebody asked if wrath is, if us committing wrath is a sin, how come the Lord can do it in judgment? Well, the Lord is righteous. The Lord has not sinned. The Lord has the ability for righteous judgment and to destroy the wicked, because everybody has a chance to be saved. Everybody has a chance to be part of the kingdom of heaven. It is us that choose not to be. And it is us, not through maybe our actions or maybe our intent, but it is us through our disobedience. And when I say that, I mean a lot of times we do what we want to do rather than what God wants us to do.
Exactly. Now, Joe, if I can just ask your indulgence one more minute here, I just wanted to go back to something because I think once again this is so important as well to understand how we got here. There's a lot of talk. A lot of people talk about the Illuminati. If I can go back to just briefly. William James Guy Carr, who wrote the book, as I mentioned, Pawns in the Game. He also wrote another book, The Red Fog Over America. Carr launched, he was just a noted authority on the history of the Illuminati and his connections to Freemasonry. You see, and this is something, Joe, remember all the trips we took and you used to document various Freemason locations, and I used to get I'm like, what are you doing this for? And I had no idea how important this would, especially in Western New York, Batavia, for example, and I had no idea how important this would be for our current research. But one of the things that Carr wrote, William Guy Carr wrote, is he chronicled the movement of the Illuminati from its founding in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt to its purported penetration of the Vatican. And this just blew me away, folks. In 1959, when Carr published his book, The Red Fog Over America, he wrote this. I copied this down and I thought, wow, this is incredible. Weishaupt, and bear in mind, this goes back to the 1770s. Weishaupt boasted that the Illuminati would infiltrate the Vatican and bore from within. Now think about that. Bore from within. So infiltrate the Vatican, bore from within. And he writes, since I expose certain events which indicate the agents of the Illuminati have infiltrated into the Vatican, I have received a number of letters from priests who have studied in the Vatican, those who have assured me that the fears I express are more than well-founded. One priest informed me that the Pope was surrounded by selected specialists, by experts, by advisors, to such an extent that he was essentially a prisoner in his own palace. Another priest informed Carr, by the way, that the external surveillance exercised now this is back in the 50s, exercised over the Pope, those who maintained the surveillance gave him no freedom of action, no privacy, even in his own chambers. The priest said those who exercise the surveillance are all handpicked members of a certain order, and they all come from the same institution, the very same institution where Weishaupt conspired. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this very troubled broadcast, this 13th day of March 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann. Remote is Joe Hagmann, and together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Those new listeners, we want to welcome you. I want to say hello to our listeners again tonight in Afghanistan and also in Australia. We have some listeners
Israel, Jamaica,
Israel, yes,
New Zealand,
all over
South America. Hi, all of you. God bless you. Yes.
Right back up for these messages.
If you're stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to 4physics.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time with a sundial. You've seen those advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com, you can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. It's your one-stop shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique, you will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word for it. Go to the website, but give yourself a lot of time because you're not going to want to leave. 4physics.com.
Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Aileta Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Hold on to your seat. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our third and final hour of this Wednesday, March 13th, 2013 episode of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. This is Joe Hagmann. With me, my co-host, Doug Hagmann. Together, we are the premier father and son radio show host team. And with that, we are going to go to calls this hour. 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. If you guys want to get in there and get on hold, we'll be taking calls very shortly. Just want to hit a few pieces of news that we did not hit today. A New Jersey woman arrested for reading the Constitution during a tax meeting. Police in Clayton, New Jersey confiscated 2 guns from a woman after she complained about county government moving to raise her property taxes and inspect her property without a search warrant. Elena Hart of Franklin Township was arrested and charged with making terroristic threats, disorderly conduct, and harassing officials from the Gloucester County Office of Assessment and Appraisal Systems, Incorporated. A county tax assessor told police Hart had attended a meeting held in Franklin Township with residents to discuss the property reevaluation program the county instituted to bring all home values up to the current market value, according to the South Jersey Times. Assessment and Appraisal Systems told the Gloucester County Times last August the pilot reevaluation program that is not about raising taxes. A reevaluation is not necessary to raise taxes, the CEO of the assessment company told the newspaper. It ensures everyone is paying their fair share, no more or no less. Residents have complained about the assessment program and that it violates the Fourth Amendment. In order to make a reevaluation assessments and determine the tax value of a property, company inspectors must enter homes and inspect them. If not allowed to do so, the company often assesses higher values on homes, leading to increased taxes. Elena Hart said she did not allow the assessment and appraisal systems to inspect her home because her husband was not present at the time. She also cited religious reasons. Because it was denied access, the company reevaluated her property at a higher rate. Hart attended a meeting last weekend to complain about the reevaluation and the arbitrary move by the county to assess the value of her property. After she began reciting the Constitution to support her argument, an appraisal system employee escorted her from the public building. She says she didn't scream or yell. She had the right, she says, I have the right to air grievances against the government in a public setting. I've never threatened anyone a day in my life. She also wouldn't let me speak. She explained. That's when the young woman came toward me, and I knew he knew he was going to put his hands on me. I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and I said to him, don't you dare touch me. Then he threw us out of the auditorium. The young man from the Appraisal Systems Incorporation was the one going postal. I believe if he had a gun, he would have shot me and my family on the spot. A spokeswoman for Gloucester County and the assessor said, has never experienced this type of extreme behavior from a taxpayer. I mean, how dare these taxpayers think they can cite the Constitution as a defense against unwarranted taxes? And the article goes on from there. After police arrested her, they demanded that she hand over her 2 guns, a .357 and a .40 caliber she had for safekeeping. If she had refused, the judge would have set bail too high for her family to pay, even though she had permits for these guns, even though she owned these guns legally. They said, turn over your guns, or your bail will be higher. Extortion at its finest. And this is not just happening in New Jersey. It's not just happening in New York. They are coming after the guns any way they can. They are coming after the property tax increases any way they can, the revenue generating. They are laying off Border Patrol agents. The 60,000 furloughed agents are going to get. We saw this story break earlier this week. Are they going to furlough the agents that actually patrol the border, or are they going to furlough the agents that patrol the checkpoints 100 miles north of the border? That's my question. And my answer is the ones at the border most likely get furloughed. They'll keep the people to run the checkpoints inside of America. Anyway,
Yeah, it's interesting to see the reaction to this story. If you go wherever this article is posted, and it's posted across the internet, by the way, it has different incarnations. Some which allege this woman had threatened to come back in and shoot up the people at the assessment office. Now, I was able to verify a couple of things. That is not true. I can tell you that is not true. I saw this early on. This is not true. This is part of the larger program where they're coming after the guns. They are marginalizing the people that are the constitutionalists. We're seeing this time and time and time and time again. It's the only thing that I think that we have to look at now, and I think this is important. Let's go back to Obama talking about a armed civilian force. Are we not seeing this taking place? Oh, and by the way, not to get off the subject, but to complement what we're talking about. Think about this, folks. As we progress down the line, think about Obamacare. How long was the original bill? The Obamacare, Affordable Health Care Act?
2,000 plus pages, 2,162 maybe, I don't know, something like that.
Do you know it's now grown to over 20,000 pages?
That's okay. Each and every politician read it, every page, every word, right?
Well, it's like the tax code.
Was that after they passed it? You could read it. Of course. Okay.
It's much like the tax code. This is not about affordable health care. This is to entrap and enslave and to compel and to force the population into a consolidated system. Everything is about centralization, much like the 1913 tax, the IRS, or 1917 IRS code. This is centralization of everything.
Ed Schultz said, giving health care to 30 million people is destroying. He was mocking this. Giving 30 million people health care is destroying the country. Ha ha ha. Laughing at something said on the O'Reilly show. Well, this is it. Giving 30 million people health insurance when we can't afford to pay our national debt. And it's not about health care. It's about what you said. Power and control of care rationing. It is about control of your medical future. Because let me ask you this. You are 40 years old. You find out you need a procedure that would be life-sustaining. You need to get something removed. You need to get something done that will sustain your life. Now, you're not a Democrat. You're a patriot. You're a constitutionalist. Are you going to be allowed? Are you going to have to change something? Are you going to have to turn in a gun to get that care?
Well, it's interesting to once again to complement to what you said, or to take it just a step further. According to the source I spoke with earlier, this is what we're seeing today, at least domestically here. This is not about simply controlling or reforming. What is taking place here is a shutdown. They want to shut this country down. When I say they, I'm talking about the globalists. I don't care whether it's a Republican or Democrat. Political parties are absolutely meaningless. And the people, and this struck me, if you think about this. The people, it's like sending everyone to boot camp. And think about this, especially people who have served and went through boot camp. One person screws up. Let's say one person
doesn't turn in their guns or doesn't conform or doesn't comply, well, what'll happen? The entire platoon or whatever, the boot camp, everyone in that boot camp will be made to suffer for that one person's ignorance or inability or unwillingness to comply. This is about retraining and re-educating. Remember what Bill Ayers said and Bernardine Dorn. These are the very people who are in the advisory capacities for Obama.
Right.
Okay. The whole group will be punished. But this is what we're about to see.
Thankfully, we don't have to rely on Obamacare. At least, maybe some might in their physical life, but just looking at it from a biblical perspective, in 1 John, it says, "And this is our confidence, that if we pray according to his will, he will hear us and give us what we ask for, because our desires are in agreement with his thoughts for us." We will be taken care of if our hearts and minds are on the same page as the Lord's. He will answer our prayers and give us what we need if we are aligned with his will. If not, we're in trouble. We're not going to get what we want. We're better off not even asking for it, especially if it's something for us. But we need to do his will. We need to be more like him and then approach this world and then approach these problems. Because the answer isn't on this show. The answer isn't on any TV or radio show. The only answer to every one of our problems can be found in one place, and that's in the Bible. And the Word of the Lord and what he says to us, his instruction manual he left for us. Some 2,000 years we are away from his departure from Jesus' being crucified. We still have that word. We know what he wants because it is still here in book format, or you can even get an audio book, or however, movies have been made. Good movies, accurate movies have been made if you don't even want to go through the Old Testament. But we have the instruction manual, the playbook. We have the beginning and we have the whole storyline. Where do we fit in that storyline? Well, it's where we put ourselves. It's how much do we want to be involved in that storyline. Our involvement doesn't depend on how much God wants us to be involved. Our involvement depends on how much we decide we're going to give to be involved.
Free will.
Right.
All right. Very good. Very good. But so all of this, all of the news that we're seeing today, all of the dots that we're seeing today that are converging, this confluence of everything that we're looking at, we can see the foundations, the plans laid so many generations ago coming to a head right now, folks. And I think that, as Joe mentioned, we have to, never before in history, I mean always, but my goodness, never before has it been so important for us to be spiritually in tune.
Right. And people feel it. People I talk to every day, or on a daily basis, even different people, they feel this intensity. They feel this weight or intensity or this change, this shift, this need to do something, this need to act, this need to acknowledge the increase in whatever they feel. And people who, it's interesting, when I was at the doctor's today with my wife, the doctor, we got into a conversation about our show, because he asked, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I'm a private investigator by trade, but, we do a radio show now. And he asked about what, and I said, it's current events, and it's based on a Christian foundation. We talk about Bible prophecy, how it relates to current events. And this guy, he speaks English with an accent. It's hard to understand him. And I'm not even sure where he's from. I'd say somewhere in Europe, but I don't know. He's a really, really nice guy.
And he said, you know, when I notice about today's generation and from when I was growing up, even the kids back then, they feared God. There's no fear of God today in America. The kids do not fear anything. One, because by nature kids are rebellious, but two, they're not being taught about God.
Right.
Not by their parents or the school.
It's not even a lack of fear. It's a lack of acknowledgement. A lack of the acknowledgement of the presence of a divine God, which just is difficult for me to believe as one goes along. But again, that's one of the roots of our demise. When a nation forgets God, that book. I mean, it's so important to understand. There's wow.
Yeah, there's a lot in, just the Bible. For starters, for those, when a nation forgets God, it's not that big of a book. If you guys get a chance to pick it up, pick it up. But for those who might be new listeners, for those who might be on the fence about the Lord, not about religion, but about the love of Jesus and accepting Him the way He accepts us, just read the New Testament. Listen to the New Testament. You don't even have to read it. If you have an iPhone or a phone that can get applications, there's a free application. It's called the Bible app.
Right.
You can go to any chapter in any book and have it. It's an audio Bible also. I mean, how much more convenient. We talk about an age where technology is increased and knowledge is increasing. How many utilize the tool who don't like to read, who could rather listen to it? Because I do both. I'll listen to it, the audio part, if I'm doing something. And it might not be as effective as sitting down and reading, but it's putting it in my head to where I'll take notes and go back and then read through it. Or sometimes I'll turn the audio on while I'm reading through it, and it helps me better understand. But the tools are there to make it as easy as possible for us to learn the word of the Lord. And I suggest everyone utilize those tools. YouTube, there are great translations, people reading books of the Bible out, so other people don't have to read them. Also movies. There are great movies on the stories of Moses, the story of Joseph, the story of just about any story in the Old Testament. You can find very accurate, biblically accurate movies. And we need to encourage each other about our faith. We need to lift up each other in our faith. And if we're doing something wrong, we need to call each other out in a uplifting way to let each other know. Brother, you're not doing this properly. We should do things like this, as the Bible says. We don't have that in our culture today. We don't have that, I don't want to say niceness, because that's not a word, but we don't have the humanity anymore in our culture. But with that, we can go to calls.
Before we do, I just want to hit one last thing, and just to reiterate, because I received a message asking me to repeat what I had said earlier about the money issue. The information I got earlier is one of the signs when we know things are about to really roll up and push toward a digital currency is when we begin hearing about the contamination of the folding paper money, if you will. And this is not limited only to U.S. dollars, but limited to all folding money, to the extent where there could be this bacterial or viral contamination, alleged or real, that will push people toward going to accepting for their own personal safety digital money. When you start hearing things like that, we are on the precipice. And also, as Steve said yesterday, and I want to thank Jim for reminding me of this, as Steve said yesterday, Japan, watch Japan. That is very critical in the scheme of monetary events. Watch for the decline of the yen. It will be a very precipitous event that will lead into the global collapse. So you've got a number of different points that you're not hearing anywhere else that tell others about. Make sure you understand, okay, the reasons behind this. And I just wanted to reiterate that because some people did not hear that earlier in our program.
All right. Well, let's go to the phone, and ladies and gentlemen, you can weigh in on anything we have talked about tonight, anything we have failed to get into tonight, and I do not have the call list in front of me, so we're going to go by order of hold time. Area code 401, you are up first. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. 401, area code, you're live. All right.
Let's move on
hold. Area code 317. You're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What's on your mind tonight?
Hi, this is Chad, Indiana. It's a long time since I called in. How you doing, guys?
Excellent. Very well, Chad. Thanks, man.
Good. Good to hear you guys. Thanks for doing all you're doing. I just wanted to touch on this thing you guys talked about at the beginning of the show in regards to the numerology and everything. Yes. And you guys have always said, and I appreciate it because you guys speak the truth on this, that we have to pay attention because they believe it. But the end of that sentence is they believe it because they are it's the antithesis to the truth, which is the scriptures. And God said he has built and created this world and this universe by weight and measure. In other words, everything is specific and perfect in its form and how it was created. We have examples of this throughout the scriptures, why that's so, and we have things in everyday life that can explain it to the everyday man when it comes to relating these things and how they relate to us in everyday ways. There's the prophecy in Daniel where the hand appears on the wall. Everybody knows this story who's gone to church, kid, where the hand writes on the wall. Very few people go into translating what that writing was. It's many, many tekel uparzon. Okay, we read that in the scripture and then usually move on. But it's a measure. It's 2,250. And you have to ask yourself, how did Daniel look at that and then turn to the king and say, you've been weighed, measured, and found wanting? We have to understand God has made everything and measured everything. And so the reason they are so focused on the numbers is because there is something there we need to know. When the Gadarene, the demon-filled man, came out of the tombs, he said, have you come to cast me out before my time? And we do it every day. We do it every day with time and distance on a daily basis. When you drive your car, you go in miles per hour. In other words, time equals distance. Okay? And so we have to understand these things by that. That's why they are so focused on it. That's why they are so adamant about it, is because time equals distance. It means a measure of time in space. The Freemasons' compass and square. So, you know, just to reiterate that fact, that, you know, I saw some people talking about, why do we even talk about this? Why is it even important? Why do you even mention the numbers? Well, numbers are important because God created everything by weight and measure, and everything has an appointed time. And, you know, there were some who were talking about, we're not to be looking after these things. The Bible condemned it. And to those people, this I run into this in everyday life. You're not supposed to look at that stuff. We were warned against it. There's one thing about there's a difference between condemning and being ignorant. Okay, we're told not to be ignorant of Satan's ways and what he does. And what you guys do is so important to educate people about things that we have ignored for too long to our own peril. We have a lot of catching up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we do.
We have. I mean, we've put an overemphasis in not necessarily. That's not the wrong word. We've looked so intently at what our fathers have said and done and grown confident in it, and that is a good thing. But we've grown ignorant of our adversaries' ways to the point of when we see something, we don't know how we should pray. You know, we don't see how to work against our enemy, you know. The old saying is, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, right?
Well,
that's not saying...
I think a big part, caller. Sorry for interrupting, but a big part of self-preservation and keeping right with God is understanding what we're up against. I mean, it's one thing, and I think you said this pretty well, just differently. It's one thing to understand that we're up against evil, but it's another thing to understand how we can get tripped up through the machinations of this evil. So we have to at least have a basic understanding of what we're up against and what we're facing, so we can recognize it. See, that's the thing. I mean, and Satan basically a loser and has nothing, is not creative and does nothing but copy what God has done. So, you know, we have to just be aware of that. Yes.
He's a counterfeit in every way. I mean, you know, an example from ancient past to modern history that everybody knows about again. You know, this philosopher's stone. What was it? It's an alchemic thing. You go back to the Age of Enlightenment, Isaac Newton and all them. They were looking for this chemical that could preserve and give eternal life. That goes back to the original lie of Satan to Eve. Did he really say you should die? Do you want to be like God and live forever? Well, they already had it. Now, it's a counterfeit because we're told in Scriptures the rock of living water from which the water flowed is Christ, who gives eternal life. And so we have to understand when we look at all these things that our adversary does, it's a counterfeit of the truth. He doesn't counterfeit anything that there isn't a truth for. I cannot fool you with a fake dollar bill if there's not a $3 bill. If there's no real $3 bill, you won't be fooled by it. He can fool you. He can only fool you with a counterfeit if there is a true, and we have to keep that in mind.
So let's take that just one step further, because I run into Christians who are looking. Yeah, boogeyman, okay? A boogeyman Antichrist. Well, no, you know what? It's going to be a Christ-like figure. A Christ-like figure instead of a boogeyman figure. So, and once again, the deception, therein lies the deception, where Satan, the Luciferians, the occultists are using the King James Bible to copy what Jesus and God has done. So, and it's important for us to understand, don't be looking for some Hitler-esque type of person to come on the scene as the Antichrist. No, this is somebody who will have the ability to deceive the very elect. So, I think it's very important, and I think, caller, you really did a good job in making that point, and especially about your analogy about counterfeiting.
Yeah, I just, I guess I'm sensitive to it because I run into, like everybody, when talking to people, and I have somebody who's very close to me who I've been talking to, and they hear me. I mean, they agree, something's up. They've read Jonathan Cain's book, and, this person's utterly convinced about America being under judgment, and then in the same breath turn around and tell me Obama's a good man.
And, I know those kind too. I know that pain and frustration. Trust me, it's all too often.
Yeah, you just want to pull your hair out. It's like.
Yeah.
How can you not put these pieces together? And I think that's just part of it. For the Christian, and I was there, Doug, like you and like many people, you don't put together the dots. You don't understand that there has been a drive and a purpose from the beginning. Since man has been put off since the fall, there has been one purpose, one goal, one drive, and an intelligent purpose behind the drive to bring about a plan. And there have been people the whole time willing to follow after that plan without breaking. God has destroyed their plans throughout time on many occasions on a grand scale, the flood, the destruction of the Tower of Babel, and on and on. There have been times when our Father has intervened to put it down at its peak, and He's getting ready to do it again. And people don't understand there's always been that purpose. We think of sin in generalities, that sin just happens to bring about these things. Why can't we understand that there are people who are purposed to bring them about? I don't get how people cannot understand that. They cannot believe that there are people in power and positions who truly believe these things and are truly willing and working and put all their efforts into bringing it about.
I agree. Not only that, they're also deceived to an extent. And I use the example of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt. The Pharaoh first was defiant, then changed his mind, then the Lord hardened his heart.
Right.
And that was an act of God, and He continued to harden the Pharaoh's heart after the Pharaoh would change his mind. And
Joe, look at that word. It's strengthened. Hardened is an interpretation. It looks strengthened. It gave him strength to endure it, so that God could show forth His glory.
Right. He could
by doing His miracles.
Yeah, so the Israelites would know the glory and power of the living God, and not, and still what they do, they were freed, and then they made an idol when Moses went up to get the commandments.
Right.
So
I'll say one more thing, Doug, and I'll get off here so other people can talk to you. You talked to L.A. Marzulli the other night, and how on fire he is, and I'm on his prayer team, and he said it. He says it so many times. We live in a supernatural world. Why can we not get through our heads there are things that are happening that are supernatural? The price of admission to being a Christian is to believe that someone was raised from the dead. And yet we want to deny these things that are happening around us that speak to these supernatural events. We want to poo-poo them away. Wake up, people. That's all I want to say. Dig for themselves. Stop listening to everybody tell you what to believe and start figuring out for yourself what you believe.
Oh,
with that,
God bless you, man. God bless you. Think for yourself.
I'll talk to you later.
Yes. All right.
Thanks.
God bless you, my friend.
Great call.
Yeah, and that's so important. I've had people tell me, well, it's really not important to really get into this. You don't really have to know this. No, you do have to know this. If we are in a battle for not only this, if we're in a battle not only for our country, but if we're in a battle for our souls, we doggone well better understand the intricacies, the agendas, the practices of our enemies. I mean, don't you agree?
Oh, yeah, but let me ask you this. What is a priority? Restoring or making perfect your soul, or restoring your country?
Well, I mean...
Is making yourself right with the Lord more important than restoring your country? Right. No.
Well, obviously.
No, but this goes to... I want to take this point...
Now, what's more important, chewing gum or walking?
Well, listen, I want to take this... No, that's not the same, because we're talking about our eternal soul. If you put restoring your country, restoring what? A nation and a way of living over... your eternal soul, there's a problem.
If we believe, now this is dinner table conversation, folks, where food starts flying. See, if we believe that our country, the United States of America, was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and those values were corrupted by men, by evil men, with the agenda, in fact, not only evil men, but demonic Luciferian men with that type of the demonic Luciferian agenda, then yes, we need to reestablish what was once good, what was once on a solid Judeo-Christian foundation. At the very same time, and again, these are not mutually exclusive, but at the very same time, we need to restore and maintain and protect and repent ourselves. I mean, it's spiritually. It doesn't have to be either or. It's both. The fight is, you know, when in the Old Testament, I mean, it wasn't an either or situation. It was both. It was through the divine power of God Almighty, and that is the power in which we invoke and must invoke. We cannot come at this from a secular side. We have to do this with the power and strength and instruction
right,
of God.
Right. Okay, you're exactly right. Now, can we do that? If we are not spiritually sound ourselves, we don't have that authority and that structure of God. Therefore, we could not accomplish.
No, but we doggone better listen when God tells us to do something, as we've seen, and a lot of people have commented on the History Channel, their Bible series. You know, when God tells you to do something, you better do it, and you better listen to exactly what He's telling you to do. And if it's a following, and I believe this, it's following God's. See, we are to. We are not to roll over and play dead while the Luciferian satanic elites, spiritually bankrupted individuals roll over us. No, we're not going to play dead during this. We're going to stand our ground so we can get through this. And God tells us that as we go through these battles, once we get through them, our blessings will be great on the other side. And each successive battle, our blessings will be greater as we live to fight another day, and this is what I truly believe. And once again, part of this, to back up, is to put things in perspective, put the papal announcement in perspective, put the dollar issue in perspective, put the economy, and put all this in perspective. Understand what's going on, because you can't wage a war. Or it's not the position of power without, number one, without God and without the knowledge of your enemy. It's equally important in my view.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to clarify, and we will move on to another call here. We're going to go to area code 503. Then we're going to go to Dave in Long Island. 503. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello, guys.
Hey, guys. What's on your mind? Yeah, we're here. What's up?
Anyway, a couple weeks ago, you guys were talking about face recognition, and one thing that I noticed, we went to some of the Oregon Duck football games like 2 years ago, and what they would do they wanted everybody in the seats before the game started. And then they would have a camera down on the field at the 50-yard line, and then they would rotate this camera, and as they did, it took pictures of everybody in the stadium. You've got probably 60,000 people in the stadium, and then after that, they gave you a website that you could get onto, and you could zoom in on every person's face in that whole stadium. And I think they did it also at a baseball game.
Yeah, they had I think I know what you're talking about. I did see they were talking about the new security measures they had, where if a fight breaks out, they had the ability to somebody to text from and they could see whatever section they're sitting in from the text they received, and they could zoom a camera in right on there in that area. And I don't know if this is if they went as far as the facial recognition software, but yeah, it's used at many more places than I ever imagined. It would be used at normal places.
It's just really strange how they can do that now and, get away with it. I mean, it was cool because you could get on the website and see everybody that was in your section or whatever. And, I mean, you could zoom in really close and you knew who was in your area. But it's just really spooky on, it's just bizarre.
No, it is, as well as other surveillance measures being taken. As I said last night, I believe it was last night on the program with Steve, people talk about being on Facebook. Well look, having a Facebook presence does not necessarily, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Some people might disagree. There are 19 different federal agencies who have access to or have possession of your records in the form of data mining. That does include, by the way, facial recognition. The ability to match facial features, and 16 of the 19 are known. 3 are very covert type of government agencies. Now, having said that, we're getting to the point where now, you really should be careful of what you post on Facebook or post publicly online, even in emails, which are nothing more than electronic postcards, because they're all being mined through the surveillance apparatus that has been put in place over the years. So you're absolutely right, caller. I mean, look, there's more to this than people can. Understand this. What you know of now, think we're 10 years, at least 10 years ahead. The government's at least 10 years ahead of what you know about in terms of technology.
Yep.
So, great call.
Anyway, that show with L.A. and Steve last night, they were really good shows. I hope to hear L.A. again sometime.
Yeah, we're going to have to get him back on for additional.
Yeah, we are going to have him back on. We haven't set a date yet, but I know we talked about doing that, and he said sure. And so we will definitely announce when we do get that set up. Is there anything else we can do for you tonight?
Maybe Doc Marquis also. I really enjoyed that one.
Yes, a few people have suggested that to me already in chat today, and they want to hear what his take is on the Pope and on a few other things, the numerology behind that also.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Have a good night, guys.
Take care. Bless.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, we are going to go here. Let's see. I thought I saw Dave on Long Island. I don't have my number sheet with me. 731. We're coming to you. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, Joe and Doug. This is Lucy in Tennessee.
Hi, Lucy.
How are y'all? That station, Lord, they are doing a great work for you, and we do not need them to be discouraged about the line holding up. So right now, tonight, Lord, we just ask for a healing of the lines, a healing of the computers, of the technology, of all that's involved in the Hagmann and Hagmann show, Lord. And Father, while we pray, I think about that Jewish man from New Jersey. My heart still goes out to him, and I pray, Lord, that he was so concerned about his son, and you took care of his son, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that he will come to Jesus, that he will come to the living knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Lord, put your hand on Joe and Doug, on their family. Put your anointing on them. Separate them, Lord, and protect them from all evil. And I pray this in the mighty, mighty name of Jesus. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Thank you, man.
And Lucy, I wanted you to know while you were praying, the sound went off for some on the blog talk in the chat room, but it's coming back. And for those who didn't hear or missed it, Lucy actually opened up with the prayer. She came on the line wanting to pray about the sound issues, and then poof, a lot of people started dropping off, saying the sound was dropping off. So I thought that's kind of interesting. But I thank you very much, Lucy, when I'm with you, that Jesus rebuked these sound demons, and we can restore order on the show and have a good show with clarity both in mind and in sound. So
yes, amen. Amen, man. Well, I love y'all, and just keep speaking truth.
Thank you, Lucy. You take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye. Wow. That's very odd that she would open up with a prayer against the people attacking the sound, or the things attacking the sound, and the sound would go off for so many. Pretty interesting. But I really think this is a blog talk issue tonight. But we're going to...
Well, I was told this one time when I mean, we've got one of the larger packages. I was told that when the weight of, when you've got overseas people tuning in, you've got tens and tens and tens of thousands of people listening. What happens is it puts a strain on their resources, and I've tried to talk with them about this, and hopefully that we'll get this taken care of one way or another.
All right, we're going to go to Dave in Long Island. As new Pope was selected today, I know Dave has probably a lot to say.
Yeah, I'm interested in what Dave's going to say about this.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, guys. Actually, my throat is really bothering me tonight. I waited so long now. But I'll make it really short, because really my throat is bothering me. The fact that I seen the Pope come out, and one thing that stood out was that he asked for prayers for him before he did his blessing upon the people, and whoever was in there made a statement about that. Also, whoever was doing the TV, whatever that word would be for that, the announcer or whatever. But I kind of agreed. In my heart, I was saying the same thing, that this Pope asked for prayer from the people. So that just shows something. For me, I was a little optimistic about that point.
Okay.
I don't know, that's just something. The fact that he's 76 years old, to me, is a little good factor to me. He probably has a lot of wisdom, I hope. I think only time is really going to tell. If he goes against, like the wolves, that there are many wolves in the Vatican, and there are nuns that want to become priests. There's nuns against the Pope, when Pope Benedict and Pope John Paul II. There's a lot of stuff going on. Of course, there's homosexuals in the priesthood in the Catholic Church. There's priests that think that they should be married, which, that's against the Catholic Church. And I'm not saying it's wrong in any other faith or whatever, but I'm just saying it's against. So there's like a little rebellion there. So we're going to have to wait to really find out what this Pope is really about. But I'm kind of optimistic about it. I feel time is only going to really tell. I mean, the church is definitely going to be persecuted. All Christians are going to be persecuted. It's coming down the pike. And if he stands up against it, that's a good thing. If he goes along with Obama's agenda and the New World Order, that's a bad thing. So,
well, Dave, the only thing I want to just mention is this. Back in 1856, and I'm trying to remember the name of the Pope. I'm trying to get it was 1856. The Pope at that time had mentioned about the Vatican allowing the synagogue of Satan to enter into the Vatican, and there was
Leo the 13th.
Okay.
He was the one that heard something coming from the tabernacle, and that he was the one who devised the St. Michael prayer to be said after every lone mass. And he said that he announced that the smoke of Satan was in the church. That was Pope Leo the 13th.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think that what we have to understand is that everything that God or everything good that from God man corrupts, and I think that that's through Satan and Satan and man corrupts. So,
the last thing, could I say this? I really think that this Pope Benedict, I think his health was a little bad and he wasn't strong, and I think he gave up that so somebody stronger could be there to battle the evil that's in the world today, to battle this president, the New World Order. I hope to God.
Dave, this is interesting. I just want to read this article from the Huffington Post, or at least the headline. Pope Francis, kidnapping controversy. Accused of involvement in 1976 abduction. The Pope that was currently elected. This is from the Huffington Post. The election of Pope Francis, previously Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio, has resurfaced as a decades-old controversy surrounding the kidnappings of two Jesuit priests. Jorge was a high-ranking official in the Society of the Jesuit, or of Jesus of Argentina, when a military Juana was installed in South America country in 1976. According to the LA Times, priest Yorio and Francisco were kidnapped in May of that year by the Navy. They surfaced 5 months later, drugged and in the field. The LA Times reported.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to see a lot of these.
Why would the Huffington Post come out with an article like this?
You know what? I don't know, but I think what we need to do is keep focused on rather than look at things like this. This might be a peg, in the pegboard where we would connect the dots, but
if the Pope was involved, let's just say he knew or whatever. All I know is evil breeds evil. We're just going to have to see. Just like homosexuality breeds other evil, just like Obama is whatever homosexual or bisexual breeds other evil. If the Pope, God help us, is any form of any kind of evil, other evil will be bred.
Very much.
So I think we have to see. I think we have to see. Wait and see.
Indeed.
God help us. I mean, we're in those times. Who knows? I'm not saying he's going to be the good one. He could be the anti-pope. I don't know. We're going to have to see.
We're going to have to see, indeed. God bless you, my friend. Thanks for the call.
You're welcome. God bless you.
Very good. And Dave is our resident Roman Catholic and
from Long Island. Yeah,
from Long Island. A very well-respected man. And I'll tell you what. We are going to have to wait and see as we develop information.
I didn't mean to read so much of that article. I just started reading and was kind of taken back by the whole, how they would come out and, this just resurfacing now
I think
thing. It's just shocking. The actual news of them reporting is more shocking than what they're reporting.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, if you do nothing else tonight or in the next day or two, I would ask that everyone just download and listen to, right on the front page, our front page. If you click on the article about the Pope, you will find direct links. You just click the link, and it'll take you to Tom Horn and Chris Putnam from January and February. Please listen to those programs. I guarantee you will be astounded by the information that you will have. I cannot make it any simpler for people to access this program. Just click on the link. And I would urge everyone to listen to those programs. And if you've listened to it already, listen to it again. I did, and I'll tell you what, I learned more the second time around. So, Joe, you can take us out.
I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. It was a great show, even though I wasn't in the studio. I apologize for my lack of organization of tonight, but I want to thank each and every one of you. God bless each and every one of you for listening from wherever you were listening from. I hope to see you again tomorrow night at the same time. I will be in studio. Have a good night.
God bless everyone.